violence is at epidemic proportions in Jamaica. It ought to be treated in the same way as we would treat any other epidemic, which is to put in place special measures to arrest it.
And simultaneous with measures by the government, we can play our part by reporting illegal activities to the Jamaica Defence Force tip line 876-837-8888 or Crime Stop at 311. It's our duty as responsible citizens to help advance the welfare of our country. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for making it Jamaica Magazine.
The following is brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with kind support of NIA and USAID.
Criminal minds think they are cunning. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency have them running. Your friend a shout, come scam. Take time running, are we ready for the ops? Drive up on your block, step out now the block, cyber take a boy your laptop. Pull up every lock, no evidence a drop. We put it in a cuffs and now we have the underground. Sin you say scam, you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. Things say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for. From you say scam, you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. Things say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for.
The proceeding was brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with the kind support of NIA and USAID.
MOCA, MOCA.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, July 11. Government is seeking to have available $1 billion for emergency funding. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke says this is the strategic intent of the administration as it implements initiatives under its public financial management policy for natural disaster risk reduction. He says this will see to the formalization of the Natural Disaster Risk Fund. The fund will support existing disaster risk management programs such as the Contingency Fund, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, and credit claims with the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank.
We want to ensure that we have access to non-budgetary resources that can be drawn down on, that can be utilized in the event of such occurrences. And we intend to do so by pursuing a layered approach, an approach where we build layers of financing that respond to different types of risk along the spectrum of risk possibilities, but in the event of a severe event, all of which would become available.
Minister Clarke was speaking at yesterday's launch of the website for the 7th Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in the Americas and the Caribbean 2020, RP20. The conference is scheduled for July 8 to 10, 2020 at the Montego Bay Conference Center in St. James. More than 1,000 persons from across the world are expected to be in attendance. The conference is being staged by the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. 22 grants worth $105.32 million have been issued to fund projects under the second component of the Special Climate Change Adaptation Fund, SCCAF. Administered by the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica, the SCCAF is funded by the Inter-American Development Bank through a 4-year $4.7 million agreement with the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. The grantees, who hail from St. Andrew, Portland, St. James, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Thomas, St. Anne, St. Catherine, and St. Elizabeth, will have 1 year to complete their projects. Initiatives being pursued include coral restoration, greenhouse farming, water catchment and storage, as well as agro-processing.
You have a short window to work on, but we are here to help you. We are here to guide you. We will hold your hands as much as we can, but when we ask for reports, it is because we want to be able to help you to do something else.
Between 2016 and 2018, 113 grants worth $514 million have been issued under the program. In other news, 126 persons have been taken into custody since Sunday's declaration of the St. Andrews South Police Division as the latest state of public emergency. In a release from the Jamaica Constabulary Force's Corporate Communications Unit, 32 have been detained, while 94 were processed and released. On Sunday, an AK-47 rifle was seized by the K-9 Division at Henley Road in St. Andrews South. In the meantime, opening and closing hours for public spaces in the St. Andrews South state of public emergency have been revised. Clubs, fast food restaurants, and places operating under a tavern license will be open between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Petroleum filling stations will open between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. An 8 in the morning to 7 in the night operating hour is in effect for supermarkets, grocery shops, cook shops, and other places offering goods for sale. Pharmacies are to be open between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., churches 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., and any other public place will be open between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. And finally, the Labor and Social Security Ministry is to publish a work list shortly to protect children from hazardous work and child labor. Portfolio Minister Shahini Robinson made the announcement at the closing ceremony of the Country-Level Engagement and Assistance to Reduce Child Labor Clear 2 project at the Terra Nova All-Suite Hotel in Kingston on Wednesday.
This will provide a guideline to parents and employers as to the types of work that children can do, the hours they're permitted to work, along with the hazardous work they are not allowed to perform.
The list forms part of the project objectives, with the others being conducting child labor investigation and prosecution, as well as train the trainers workshop. The Clear 2 project was undertaken by the ministry in collaboration with non-profit organizations Windrock International and Lawyers Without Borders, and was funded by the United States Department of Labor. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
With water shortage now plaguing some communities and the children at play during the summer holiday, let us be mindful to enforce proper hygiene and safeguard ourselves from worm infestation. Here's more from consultant pediatrician Dr. Sandrika Young-Peart.
Deworming is the process of giving worm medicine to an individual to get rid of parasites such as roundworm and tapeworm. While the focus is usually on children, adults should also be dewormed. Consultant pediatrician at the Bustamante Hospital for Children, Dr. Sandrika Young-Peart, tells us why this process is important, signs to look for, and the impact of these worms to our health.
When we talk about worms, we're talking about multiple different types. We may talk about the roundworm, the pinworm, or we can talk about the whipworm. And these are just some of the few worms that exist. The worms can actually cause a disease burden on our society, and the complications of having worm infestations are numerous and problematic. It affects how our children may concentrate and may be able to learn. There are actually documented findings that it actually affects your cognitive and your physical development and your ability to concentrate in school. And so it's actually important that we actually rid our children of these parasites. According to the WHO, approximately 800 million children are actually affected by worms each year. So what are some of the signs that a person may have worms? Symptoms could be what we commonly think about, like grinding of the teeth. They may be itching their anus, right? They may actually have weight loss. They may feel very tired and fatigued. And these are just some of the symptoms that may give you an indication that your child may have worm. They may not have any signs at all. Or they can have other signs and symptoms, such as vomiting, abdominal swelling or distension, diarrhea, or constipation. If the worms actually form balls, they can actually block the intestines, and that can either cause constipation and cause the child to vomit. They can also present with wheezing, and we may think they are actually asthmatics, but it's actually the worms that have migrated into the lungs to cause obstruction of the airway and cause the child to wheeze. So how do they get infected? They may get infected either by eating or drinking contaminated water or food. If there is inadequate or improper waste disposal, and if we don't wash our hands before we eat or drink food. And there's a particular worm that you can actually get if you actually walk barefooted. So that is also something to bear in mind. And so it's actually important that we actually give our children worm medicine so we can actually target getting rid of these worms and actually reducing the worm burden in our society. You can deworm your children twice per year. You should actually give them worm medicine, and all the persons who are in the household should also get the worm medicine at the same time. It is important that our adults also be treated or dewormed, because we can be asymptomatic, meaning that we don't have any symptoms at all, but we can still be carriers of worms. And when we excrete or pass our feces, especially sometimes when we do it inappropriately, we may pass out the eggs of these worms. Then our cows or poultry or pigs may actually ingest these when they feed. And then that's a vicious cycle. And should our children be playing in the areas where waste is inadequately disposed, then they too can actually pick up the eggs or the larvae on their fingers. And if they don't wash their hands before they eat, or while they're in the midst of playing, they may actually put their fingers in their mouth, then they too can actually ingest these worms. So how can you prevent your child from getting worms? It's difficult, but there are some basic tips that we can actually do to reduce the chance of our children getting these serious worm infections and having the complications. It's basic hand washing before eating our food, allowing our children not to walk barefooted, allowing our children not to play with the pets, especially if their pets are not treated quite frequently. And importantly, proper hygiene. Ensure that our waste is disposed properly. So it's pretty important that we all get on board as adults so we can actually reduce the worm burden and the impact on our society.
Don't make diseases spread. Wash your hands with soap and water instead. Wash them regular or use a hand sanitizer. Make sure the germs them dead. Touching your eyes or your mouth or your nose. Wash your hands before you do things like those. After you use the bathroom before preparing food, come on, wash your hands them clean.
For the past 2 weeks, we have been helping you to understand the role of the Revenue Appeals Division and how to make an appeal. Today, we conclude with what happens after the appeal is made.
Welcome to Finance Matters, a production of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. I'm your host, Daniel Pasley, and today we'll be focusing on the appeals process of the Revenue Appeals Division and the successes of the RAD. And today we'll be speaking to Commissioner of the Revenue Appeals Division, Dr. Delary Staple-Chambers. And she'll be talking about what happens after the decision has been made after appeals case, as well as some successes. Thank you so much for coming on the program once again, Commissioner.
Well, it's good to be here, Daniel.
So, the decision has been made. What happens next?
Right. So, the law mandates that the Commission of Revenue Appeals has to issue the decision in writing, explain how that decision was made. So, we produce a document which outlines the facts that were presented by both sides. So, it summarizes the facts. And then it includes our findings and analysis of those findings, and the determination in terms of what the final liability of the taxpayer is. Now, the law prescribes that we can either confirm the decision that was made by the Commissioner of the Revenue Authority, or we can reduce that decision. We can set that decision aside and make a new decision, as well as we can vary the decision. What we cannot do, however, is increase the amount. So even if we determine through the facts that were presented that the assessment should have been more, we cannot increase it because we're not an assessing, we're not a tax assessing authority. Now, once we have made that decision and we produce that written document, it is dispatched to the parties, and on the receipt of that decision, the taxpayer has a further right to appeal.
Right.
However, the decision is binding on the Commissioner of TAJ or JCA. So right now they do not have the right to appeal the Revenue Appeals Division decision, but the taxpayer can.
Let us look at some of the successes. I had a conversation with you some hours ago, and you were talking to me about modernization, how that is so crucial to the RAD. Could you tell us, or should I say tell our viewers a little bit more about that?
Right. So the Revenue Appeals Division Act of 2015 modernized the tax appeals laws in Jamaica. So since we have implemented this legislation in June 2015, we have managed to reduce the turnaround time of cases by at least 1/3. So we were like 36 months to 40 months turnaround time. We are now 24 at the end of last fiscal year, 24 months turnaround.
Right.
And this year we are on track to be within 18 months turnaround time. Our goal our goal by 2021 is to be within a 6-month turnaround, which is basically in line with international best practice. So we are well on track where that is concerned.
So once that is achieved, then you'll be able to eliminate some of the backlog. Well, you have been eliminating some of the backlog of those cases.
So we have introduced a backlog elimination project last year that comes to an end May 2019. And what we did was to target the closure of cases that were older than 24 months at the end of March 2016. And we are pretty close to completing those. We have gone through more than 50% of that workload already. And that has contributed to the reduction in the times that we're now seeing. With the cases that come in now, current cases are now being kept current, so we're not adding to our backlog. So once a case enters the Revenue Appeals Division now, it can be assigned to someone almost immediately. Prior to that, it had a wait time of maybe 24 months sometimes. So that is a marked improvement, and that engenders the continued reduction of the turnaround time, and also put us in good stead of providing better service to our taxpaying public.
Well, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Commissioner. It was a pleasure.
Certainly was mine as well, Daniel. Thank you for having us.
So thank you so much to you, our viewers, for watching Finance Matters. I'm Daniel Pasley, and we will see you next time.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
Up next, an inside look at the mechanics of our television sets.
Welcome to Roadside.
In the late 1800s, a 23-year-old German student, Paul Nipkow, succeeded in sending images through wires with the help of a rotating disc. He had invented the first ever mechanical module of television using a technology called the electric telescope. Other inventors after him perfected the craft by using the cathode ray tube and mechanical scanner system to create a new television system. And so, what was once a manually operated machine that only gave black and white pictures is now a more sophisticated, modern electronic machine operated by the press of a button. The television creates moving pictures by repeatedly capturing still pictures and presenting these frames to our eyes so quickly that they seem to be moving. The TV set receives these pictures along with sound as electronic signals sent from broadcast houses, or TV stations as we call them. The signals go through the tuner or antenna socket.
Now in the TV you have the demodulator circuit. That now separates the video from the audio. The video information is sent to the CRT, while the audio is sent to the audio processor in order for us to get sound.
The CRT, or cathode ray tube, is often referred to as the picture tube, and elements inside it begin to reconstruct the pictures almost immediately. From this point, the picture signal goes to the electron gun circuit, which splits the video into separate red, blue, and green beams to drive the 3 electron guns. Attached to the gun, the all-important flyback.
This flyback supplies the high voltage. Now, this high voltage is used to light up the CRT.
And once the CRT comes alive, it emits the red, blue, and green electron beams which will scan the pictures. The scanning is done from right to left all the way to the bottom of the TV screen and restarts at the top. The colored beams pass through a grid of holes called a shadow mask, which directs them so they hit exact places on the screen.
Now, you also need the horizontal yoke. Now, this yoke is what is used to direct the beams so that each beam is focused to that particular pixel, so that all the beams enter the shadow mask through one hole. Right? That way we can get a true white picture. You also have the magnet here, which is used to align the beam so that they are perfect, spot on.
Inside these tiny holes are phosphor-coated color dots, which when they're hit by the beams, quickly build up a colored picture, while elsewhere on the screen remains dark. Spots of light are also produced on the screen by the transfer of the CRT beam energy to the phosphor.
That is what allows us to see the light. The ultraviolet ray is really invisible to the human eye. So the phosphor is what creates that bright light, so you can actually see the picture.
So what we see on our screen is the combined effect of all the electron light emissions. Everything happens so fast that it almost seems instant. But the reality is that the electron beams actually scan a pixel mask of 525 lines 30 times per second. This is what creates the illusion of moving pictures. While all this is happening, audio information from the incoming signal passes through a separate audio circuit, which drives it to the loudspeakers so they can recreate the sound exactly in time with the moving picture. So in a nutshell, the signal from a broadcast house goes to your TV tuner or antenna socket, then to the signal processor, which separates the audio from the video. The video signal is then fed to the cathode ray tube while the audio signal enters a separate circuit, and both go through a quick but complex process to produce picture and sound. Pleasant viewing.
There's a concert today, come along, there's a concert here today. So take your seat and pose your best.
Jamaica's beauty is our duty. Prevent bushfires during the windy, dry season. Remove firewood, dried grass, or bush away from your house. Never use fires to clear land. Never light a fire in an open area when it's windy. Ensure cigarette butts, matches, or other lighting materials are out before disposal. And use an ashtray. Don't throw cigarette butts out of your window. High winds and dry conditions can be a fiery combination. Lend a hand. Protect our land from fires.
We continue to showcase another entry in the JCDC Festival Song Competition to help you decide on a winner by July 27.
This your island, Jamaica, bless. This your island, Jamaica, bless. There are ups and downs, still a lot of interest. This your island, Jamaica, bless. Me never know one place good and nice, so smiling faces wherever we go. Woman them a glow, man them they pandy go. Them can't understand why we vibes is so cool. River just a go with the flow. Right, yes, so we born and grow. Anywhere we go, the whole world have to know. This your island, Jamaica, bless. Say we bless. This your island, Jamaica, we well blessed. There are ups and downs, still a lot of interest. This your island, Jamaica, bless. With food is divine, with beauty so fine. Hear the church sing. Jesus is mine. Sweet reggae music playing all the time. Rain might fall, but enough sunshine. Peace and love, them off we combine. All the bad mind we left that behind. Let me show you around. The pleasure is mine. This your island, Jamaica, bless. Yeah. This your island, Jamaica, bless. We bless. There are ups and downs, still a lot of interest. This your island, Jamaica, bless.
As we close today's show, we ask that you stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.